First of all, I need to say thank you to my team here. We're a new team. We're only, 3 weeks on the job, 4 weeks now. So as far as the right side, which is the Create Institute, which really marries servant leadership, which you're all here for, and the entrepreneurial spirit, which you talked about before. And so how do these fit together to help individuals develop as leaders, strong leaders of character? And so this is a new hat that I get to wear with the individuals. Can you just raise your hand, all the people who are part of this team, because it's great to have you here. And as he said, I also teach in the Rader School of Business, and I primarily teach graduate education. And I work with individuals usually who come from a technical field and are going back to school for their master's to learn how to be leaders. And so that's where most of my time has been in the last 11 years. And servant leadership has been woven through all of that, and thanks to Dave, who when I first came was the chair and got me involved with servant leadership at MSUE. Beyond that, I have another hat, which is a hat of a consultant. And so I'll tell you a little bit more about leadership portals and the name later. But I get to work with leaders literally from around the world, and I help them develop as leadership teams. So I've gotten to work, at one point in time, I was working with a group of executive steelworkers, executive nuns, and an Asia Pacific team. And so I've really been fortunate to work with them. And oftentimes I use servant leadership as part of that. In fact, a couple years ago, Al Kalachi and I, who's in the lower left, presented here about our work of using servant leadership to help teams, Asia Pacific teams, learn to respect each other and grow together as leaders. And so it's nice to be back here again with all of you. And so thank you so much, Dick. And then I get to coach individuals. And so I get to coach leaders and principals. And so one of the principals is here also. So I thank all the people who are here with that. Dick said, share a little bit about your journey. And so I thought I'd share in pictures. So this is all pictures. I started out as a recreational therapist, and I was on the design team of Frederick Hospital's Spinal Cord Injury Center. I loved working with individuals and helping them to find joy in life again. And then I decided I wanted to make a larger impact. So I went back to school for health administration and public policy. And during that time, that's when I was introduced to Greenleaf's book. In fact, I had a whole course that was based on Greenleaf's work about leadership, or about board development and working with boards. And so I really found like, wow, there's actually a theory and there's a whole body of work that fits with what I believe. And so I think that's when I coined myself a servant leader. And then I was an executive training program at Frederick Hospital for 2 years. It was a fellowship program. And I remember at that time working for Dean Rowe, who was the founding president of Frederick. And I would go with my project all ready to tell him about it, because at that time, any department that opened up, that was my department. Any big project, that was my project. And it was to help me be a leader. But what he really taught me about is, as I brought that project, he put it aside and he said, what do you know about the people? What do you know about what they are thinking? And so he really pushed me to say, servant leadership is about connecting with the people. And yes, you have to still execute and have the technical skill, but that's not what's going to make you a good leader. And then I was a vice president at Horizon Home Care and Hospice. I loved that work, and I decided I needed to give back. And so I started teaching part-time as part of that, because I knew I was in a privileged position. And as part of that, I started teaching at Marquette University in their College of Professional Studies, and I was on the design team of that. And as part of my journey, I started to really question, what is it that was really important to me? And so my mentor, who's here today, who hired me, Bob Deal, sent me on a journey, and he sent me to a monastery. And that was one of the monasteries. I actually went to a Christian and a Buddhist monastery on the East Coast, or on the West Coast. And I looked at, what is it that was important to me? And I decided to leave my executive position to go back to teach. I went back for my PhD, as David talked about, and then I was recruited at UWM, and I taught in their executive program. And I had this wonderful opportunity of receiving the University Teaching Award, which became my kiss of death, I call it. It was awesome, but it meant then that I was asked to teach classes of 300. And I can't connect one-on-one with classes of 300. And so I decided to move to MSUE when they recruited me. But I also have to highlight the bottom right-hand corner. because my most important job of all of this is I'm a mom. I have a 17-year-old and a 25-year-old. They're much younger then. But that's my most important job. And so on my journey, this is actually the place I sat. Bob, you know this well. And I looked out and tried to think about what's important to my life. This is an annotated version of this. And I wrote it in 1986. And my purpose is really to assist individuals, groups, and organizations in reaching their fullest potential. And then I have to remind myself sometimes that in turn, that helps me reach my potential. And then what's my values? What are the core values that I have to live by? And it's really living by that purpose and to do it with wisdom. And I use that to make the transition from a large institution to a small institution in my personal life when things happen that may not necessarily want to have happen. And then in those day-to-day decisions when it's a hard day. And then I have these integrity partners that I'm so grateful for, one of which is here, Mark Sternig. And I call on them when sometimes it's hard and I'm like, oh, what did I do? And the question always is, did you live your purpose? And even if it's a hard decision, if my answer is yes, I live my purpose, then it's okay, even if it's hard. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to share a little bit about one part of my journey. And that is the part that's at MSOE and a program that I developed to help develop servant leaders. 10 years ago, when I came to MSOE, I wanted to bring international business component to the graduate program. And so we started developing this program that was really focused on developing business acumen with China. But what I soon found out is that through this journey, that was a nice benefit, and that might be the reason why people sign up. But it was really about developing leaders, developing their character, developing servant leadership, and helping them to gain confidence through risk-taking. So the course is 11 weeks domestically, and we partner with leaders in industry through case studies to learn about China. And then we start working on a servant leadership project. In fact, this morning at 6 a.m. with a group of students, I was on WeChat with China to work on our new project that we'll be working on in a couple weeks when we travel to China. And then we go to China. And all of this is done through partnership. And this is where Create comes in, because I really was attracted to Create because it partners experiential learning with corporate partners. And so these are all the partners that I've worked with over the years that we've worked with to make this possible. Learning can't be possible without all of you engaging in higher education. That's where we make it meaningful for students like you. I have to put on my teacher hat right now because my teacher hat says I need to ground this in some theory. And I believe in the notion of threshold concepts, which is sometimes called portal learning, which is why my consulting firm is called Leadership Portals. Portal learning came out of Myers and Land out of England. And they note that threshold concept is really a passing through a portal, which opens a door to what was previously inaccessible and new ways of thinking. It requires transformation in thought, action, and deed. It integrates all different kinds of learning, and it creates new schemas and new language. So for us in China, it's about guanxi, and that guanxi is the way you do business. It's about a relationship that we have, and that we can't do business unless I have a relationship with you first. I can't just start doing business. And it's irreversible. Once I've learned this, I can't go back to seeing the world as I saw it before. It's not easy. How many people have been on the Elroy-Sparta bike trail? Okay, so you'll know this. There's a long tunnel, right? And that long tunnel, you can maybe see a little, not really. She's like, nope, you can't. And so as part of that, my kids and I, we were like, okay, we're going to do this without our light on, which you're not supposed to do. We did walk our bike. But it's scary. There's spider webs and spiders and water and little holes, and it's creepy. So you want to turn back because it's hard. But that's what leadership development's about. That's what learning to be a servant leader's about. It's not easy. And once you see that, you can't go back to seeing the world the way it was before. So let me tell you a story about Jesse. Jesse is one of many, and I've asked Jesse, he's seen these slides, I've talked with him about this. And Jesse was referred by his supervisor, who also was a part of this program. I could pick over 100 different individuals to talk about. I'm just picking Jesse. So Jesse learned about China through experiential learning, through the history and philosophy, through doing calligraphy. He learned through meetings with executives. He learned through giving a presentation at GE Healthcare at their executive board on culture. And he also learned through one of the pivotal things, they all have a job, multiple jobs, but each person takes a turn leading the group to our destination. He picked one that was an hour away. He had to figure out how to transfer money, figure out how to get on the subway, buy tickets from somebody who didn't speak English, by the way, 13 of them, and then lead the whole group through multiple transfers on the subway. It was terrifying for him. He had never left the country before, and now he's leading a group in China to get from point A to point B. That's risk-taking. And at the end, you can see this pride. He had this pride. The trip would have been enough with that. He would have been transformed. But it's really the servant leadership project that we do that's the key transformation. And so as part of this, we partner with the Library Project, which is an organization that was developed by an American to build libraries in rural schools that have no running water, no electricity, and most importantly, no books. And so as part of that, we teach the students, we get to have lunch with them, we build a library, we interact with them, and then we sponsor 3 children. So Jesse's story is, he went into the classroom and he noticed this little girl in a yellow sweater who caught his eye, and he taught her. And then at lunch, this little girl sat next to him and ate lunch, along with the chicken right there that's running around below them. And then he played with her outside. And then it got that we went to our homes that we were giving a donation. And the mother, through a translator, told her story that she wanted more for her daughter than she had. She was a single mom who didn't have resources. And most little girls have to do all the chores. And she said, no, my little girl is going to do homework and is going to learn and is going to be better. And Jesse heard that story. And then I said, Jesse, could you please give the donation and give the speech? I had no idea that Jesse had this little girl as important throughout the day. No idea. And Jesse got up there and he couldn't talk. And he was so moved and so proud of that mom and had admiration for that little girl and was humbled by the situation. And on the way back, we walked together and he found me. It was a long walk. And he started to joke about, he started to choke up and how funny that was. And I said, wait, no, hold that. That's the most important. That's what leadership's about, is connecting with this little girl. He's like, I'm a good engineer. I'm not supposed to do that. I've only cried once, and that was at my daughter's birth. I'm not supposed to do that. I said, no, that's what you are supposed to do. You're supposed to feel. You're supposed to connect. That's how you're going to make a difference. And a little bit later, I got to see him, and I saw him engage very differently with individuals at a much deeper level. And a year later, and I got to read all of his reflection papers about this and how it transformed him and how he was going to be different in the workplace. And I know he is, because a year later, he came back and talked to the students and told them this story and said, I've been changed. And he has. So this transformation is how he transformed and saw the world, how he saw China, but most importantly, how he saw himself. And he will never be the same. This is my last test, which is for the students in servant leadership. Greenleaf said, servant leadership is servant first, and that you want to serve. And the test is, do individuals that you serve grow? I think that the little girls and the children grew. Will they become servants? I don't know, but I know that they were marked. And will they be served by the least privileged? Will they serve the least privileged? I don't know, but I can tell you that the students do. And most importantly, for me, this is my test. How do I help people grow? How do I help them see the least served? And if I can do that and then they serve somebody else, then the ripple effect is profound. I had a short time. I'm going to just say, coincidentally, 2 weeks ago, this podcast went up by somebody who focuses on life and meaning. It's an hour long. You need a really big cup of coffee to watch it or to listen to it, but it's more about the story. So if you're interested in it, thank you so very much.
Thank you, Kelly. Excellent.